One of the things that kind of got this going for me, and I thought that it would be good to get other state restaurant associations on, as well as Suzanne from the Council of State Restaurant Associations, and talk about the different things all of the different organizations have been doing to respond to this. And I've been seeing a lot of Anna's work. I've been seeing a lot of Laura's work on social media, and from other associations, Ohio, and some other great all the other states are doing some amazing things. And figured we should probably have a venue where we can share some of these ideas and get people on the same page and work off of each other's efforts. So with that, I just kind of wanted to go over kind of the agenda that we're planning so far today. One is just kind of going over the introductions, and then one of the other ones would be, the next one would be going over virtual events, town halls. This is something that we're looking at as an association here in Washington, but wanted to pick your brain over there, Laura, on some of the things, the successes that you've had, and Anna, and some of the things that you've seen at the national level, Suzanne. Ideas on delivery options and takeout, best practices on grocery and other revenue sources. The other things would be obviously the relief packages. We're kind of in the middle of this, the SBA loans, and I'm sure everybody's getting a lot of calls on these efforts. And then the employers and employees, and how-tos for both employers and employees on unemployment and other issues surrounding that. So for today, we've got, I'll just let everybody introduce themselves. Anna, let's go ahead and start with you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Nice to meet you guys. Although I do know some of you on video. Nice to see you again. My name is Anna Tausen. I'm the Chief Revenue and Innovation Officer for the Texas Restaurant Association. I've been with TRA for a little over 3 years now. And previous to that, I was with the National Restaurant Association for about 5.5 years.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Suzanne.
Hey everybody, Suzanne Boley with CSRA, Council of State Restaurant Associations. I'm in DC. I've been with the group for about 2 years, and I office at the National Restaurant Association when we're in the office, and it's great to be there and have access to their information for you guys.
Great. Laura.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Shunk. I am the Communication Director at the Colorado Restaurant Association. I've actually only been there about 6 months, so nothing like trial by fire, getting thrown into this environment with everything that's going on, but have been in the restaurant industry for a long time, my entire career, so more than a decade at this point, and communications and journalism too. So
Great.
Glad to be here.
Great. And we've got Jillian from our office here in Washington State. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Jillian?
Yeah, hi there, everybody. My name is Jillian Hens. I'm our Senior Communications Manager and PR lead, and basically just help Lex do whatever needs to be done in the communications department.
Great. So let's go ahead and start with some of the things I wanted to get to it today was the virtual events and how this is all affecting the live events that we all have planned. There's a lot of things going on. This is a potential hit on revenue as well as member engagement. Let's start with you, Laura. You've had some great success with town halls. Can you talk a little bit about what you've done on town halls in Colorado?
Yeah, so we have done a series, we've done a number of things, and we're kind of billing it as a series of town halls or webinars. We have done, so I would say they kind of fall into maybe 3 buckets, actually. One is live conversations with our elected officials. So our governor, one of our senators, we're working on the other senator as well, officials who are sort of right in the crafting of this legislation that's affecting us. So that's sort of one bucket. The second bucket is, I would say, kind of explanations of the relief that has been released. So we've been relying heavily on our, especially our legal partners, to, as those pieces of legislation come out, to get on the phone with our members, to really dial into the how-tos and how they affect our members, the restaurant industry at large. Those have been our most popular, I would say by far. We've had 500 restaurateurs on many of those calls or more, looking at, how to actually access the bits of relief from the CARES Act, how to comply with the new requirements of the FFCRA. things like that. And then the third bucket would be kind of they're also how-to buckets presented by, or sort of how-to topics presented by experts, but they're I would say a little bit restaurateur driven. So, hearing people say that they're having a challenge shifting their model to takeout delivery, we worked with a marketing firm to then, basically give some tips for how people can shift their marketing budgets, even if they have no budget, how they can be marketing that, how they can be more effectively marketing what they're doing, and just some easy fixes to what they're already doing. So those are kind of the three things that we've done. And, a lot of, we'll sort of do the events and then we'll take notes and we'll do Q&As. There's always time for people to ask questions, which has also been massively successful. So people can, either tune into the webinar live, they can watch it later, or they can read our notes and sort of takeaways from it. And so through that, I think we've been able to communicate pretty effectively and very quickly on some of these huge developments that have happened.
Great. One of the things I keep hearing from Anthony and others is that you all have been able to actually get members added to the association through these. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Through the webinars you're talking about?
Yeah, it sounds like it was able to get some people to help sign up.
Yeah, so we opened, so the first thing we did, I think, in this whole process is we opened all of our communication up to the entire industry. So you could opt into everything that we're sending out. You can come to any of these town halls, including with our elected officials. You don't have to be a member. And I think as a result of that, we've seen members say, wow, this is such a valuable resource and certainly want to continue to be a member. And then we've seen non-members say, I had no idea that this is all the things that you guys do. And I'd like to join. So, in terms of, I guess, did I answer your question, or were you more about the logistics of actually getting people to the webinars?
Oh, no, I was just curious that, so they must be really engaging and really allow members to participate and for them to be able to get excited about the association to sign up. I was just kind of curious the nature of that. And so that's great.
Yeah, I think the Q&A aspect of that is huge. We also, and kind of to follow through on that, beyond just, hey, come join our webinars, watch our webinars, ask any question you want, and we will, in addition to whatever questions get asked on the phone, we do a follow-up with the experts and ask them to kind of do a generic Q&A document as well. So there is a follow-up even on that. But then we've also got, sort of not as publicly as the webinars, we've got about 8 people internally fielding questions, individual questions that come in. And, some of those get referred out to legal experts or whatever it is. But, that has been sort of a massive focus of our resources, so that even non-members who are writing, we have had several non-members at this point write in with questions, and we're treating those like member questions. So we're answering those and referring them just as if they were members.
Great. Suzanne, what are you seeing in the national trend? Are you noticing any national trends on them?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on what we were just talking about here. I've seen some of the CEOs talk about the fact that there's so much information coming out and we're in this new world that they're even doing quick pop-up informal live events like this, talking about PPP and EIDL, all these things, these new terms because of the SBA loans. But everybody is in need of information in terms of members. So getting out there and talking with them, it can be informal, but they very much appreciate the information that you're sharing. And what they also say is, if you're not the expert, get an expert. If you don't know the accounting, get an accountant on there, get a finance person on there. New Jersey did a great one where they had two different finance people talking about the PPP and then the EIDL loans. So have the experts out there. It doesn't need to be perfect and polished. In fact, I think that's been beneficial. And then the other thing is I've seen some of the polished, I know we're going to talk later about groceries to go and some of those concepts. Some of the vendors out there are doing great Zoom interviews, and they'll have 4 or 5 experts talking about the products and how you can get creative in this new world that we're in. So I'm seeing a little of everything out there as well.
Anna, I know you don't have to talk about all of the details for Texas, but I know you're known for some of the really big events going on there. What are some of the things that you've been going through your team's minds and how to move forward?
Sure. Well, I think the reason that Texas, frankly, has caught a lot of attention recently in light of the pandemic is because we're a very nimble group and we're able to move very quickly. And I would give a lot of credit to Dr. Emily Williams-Knight, our new CEO. She only joined us less than a year ago, and she really jumped in with both feet. And so we've been able to pivot very, very quickly. And because we have very high energy, high capacity people at the top, we're able to just do a lot during the day. So there's three of us basically running the association right now, Emily, Joe, and myself. And then we have a pretty good team around the state as well that's able to respond very quickly. So that's been really nice. But I kind of wanted to tag on to what Laura was saying about virtual events, because we've done quite a few recently too. We've done education related ones. I know that we had more than 750 people on our curbside education one. We did the grocery thing recently. We've done some other topics. And then, of course, we do more policy-related topics as well, like understanding EIDL, understanding SBA, understanding the PPP loan, or protesting the PPP loan, depending on what day it is. And then I'd also say that one thing that's been really successful is Emily is very willing to be in front of the camera and doesn't shy away from it. To Suzanne's point, it's never very polished. It's usually like oh my God, we got to put this together. Let's just go. And we create very quick bullet points, and she does it. And so we've started to refer to those as night talks, because it usually happens at like 8 or 9 p.m. Central Time, and her last name is Knight, so it's real cute. But they're very, very well received, and people love them. People really love chiming in and like discussing things with each other. They ask a ton of questions, some of which we know the answer to, some of which we're like, haven't heard that one in the last 12 hours. So we go and, try and find the answer for them. So that's what we're doing with virtual events right now.
Right. Jillian, you want to talk about some of the things we've done here in Washington State?
Certainly. So our goal, when in Washington State, we had the first case. So we've been running for a couple of weeks now. I think we decided it was about 4.5 weeks. And our primary goal at the beginning was to make sure that members had all of the information that they needed to run their businesses. And we have seen it all from early on of questions about how do members keep this out of their businesses? What do they do if they have a guest come in, check in at the hotel, and we think that they have it? What can we do? What should we do about our employees, to actually the businesses getting temporarily closed if they're not essential, or they decide that they don't want to do takeout or delivery, and now everybody has been home under our stay healthy, stay home order. So as we've kind of seen this huge kind of uptick in interest kind of around the end of March, as everything started closing, everybody was making the horrendous decision of laying off staff and what they were going to do and how they were going to survive. And now we're kind of coming down into this space of, okay, let's talk finances, let's talk relief, and let's start to talk about potentially reopening. So here in Washington State, our order just got extended through May 4th. And we are optimistically talking about, will summer vacation, will that be possible? How are we going to get Washingtonians out to rediscover Washington? So we've got continuing to push out member information. We send out e-blasts to members. We were going daily there for a bit because the governor had a press conference every day with a new order that impacted our industry tremendously. And now we're at about 3 e-blasts per week, and we're seeing great open rates between 30 and 50%. Our click rates go way up into the 40 and 50%. We've got action alerts going out. We have done a couple of webinars as well, and we do offer those on replay. Yeah. And Lex was the amazing architect of our coronavirus resource guide, which is a completely searchable knowledge base. And our team has been putting up oh goodness, anywhere between 5 and 10 new pieces of content per day. And that's everything from, do your employees need to wear masks? What are the latest updates from the CDC to the best ways to deliver liquor, beer, and wine right now. So we have been tapping into every vehicle in our infrastructure that we've been building for the past couple of years. And we're really thankful for the team that we have right now. It's just, we're really dialed in and just really working our tails off running.
Thanks, Jillian. One of the things I wanted to talk about too, though, was the virtual events that we have done and we're looking at doing in the future. We really want to start modeling what you all are doing from the interactive town halls, because right now the efforts that we've been doing have been focused primarily on webinars, getting the Employment Security Department on, getting our regional deputy director for the SBA on. Those have been very well attended, and we've been using that. We've been getting a lot of traction on the replays, but we've been really wanting to take it up to the next level because we've had to cancel a lot of our summits. We had summits that were scheduled all the way from over the next 2 to 3 months, and it was unfortunate, but we had to do it. And but we need to fill that gap. We have people who committed sponsorship dollars. We have members who are expecting to attend, and so we're trying to find a way to fill that gap. So so as Jillian noted, we've got a lot of things going on now, but right now we're looking at the next level of engagement, and so virtual events is going to be, it's looking like it's going to be a big deal moving forward.
Yeah, Lex, can I just chime in on that real quick? One thing that we've noticed, we had a town hall recently with one of our U.S. senators, Senator John Cornyn, recently, and that was wonderful. That was great. And it actually caused a lot of U.S. reps to reach out to us to say they want to do more town halls. So we anticipate doing more with our U.S. reps probably in the next week or two, which has been great. Like it's nice that they're willing to talk to our audience like that.
That's good. Yeah, Jillian, I think we've had a few reps. This might be a good opportunity to take advantage of that. All right, moving on to the next topic. Anything else on virtual events? Okay. And again, for folks that are either watching this here or on the replay on Facebook or on primarily probably on Facebook, feel free to just enter your comments and questions on Facebook, and then we'll try to address those later on this presentation. The next one is ideas on delivery options and takeouts. Let's go ahead and Anna, do you want to start on that one? What are some of the things that are going on there in Texas?
Sure. So I'll try not to let this bleed over into grocery too much because that's like a whole other beast that we've been able to manage. But whenever dining rooms first started closing in Texas, it was county by county, not by the state. And so we were actually tracking all 254 counties within Texas to figure out who still had dining rooms open and who didn't. And then honestly, gratefully, Governor Abbott closed all dining rooms, and that made it a little bit easier to track what was going on. But because of our strong relationships with all these elected officials, anytime they would go in front of the camera and say that they were closing dining rooms, they made sure to encourage people to do delivery, takeout, curbside, that kind of thing, which is great. And obviously we were able to slide those notes into their speeches because we want people to continue to go to restaurants. We're actually working on a couple PSAs right now to encourage more of that kind of thing. Elected officials, again, are helping us sort of lead the charge on that and want to get these PSAs out there. And then when it comes to delivery and takeout options in general for the restaurants, we really are encouraging them to do their own delivery or focus on takeout and curbside as much as possible. I think all of you in this group know how I feel about third-party delivery companies. I'm sure I'm in good company when it comes to my distrust of many of them, honestly. Those commission fees that they charge restaurants is just unreal. And even some of them who have said that they are waiving the fees are not technically waiving them. They're actually going to tack them onto a bill later down the road. And by using them, you are now involved in a 1 to 2 year long contract. So just really encourage people to read the small print on that. We actually have a breakdown of which ones are doing what on our website, just to make sure that restaurants know what to look out for. And then I've seen some real creativity when it comes to curbside, everything from people, creating their own drive-throughs in an empty parking lot at this point, with a lot of cones and tents out there. A lot of signage is being used right now to help people understand, where to go and how to order. And luckily, people are being really patient. I mean, knock on wood, I think everyone understands that, like, you just have to give people a little more time right now to get the order correct. But it's also been really great for our technology partners. You know, Toast is doing really well in all of this. Olo is doing really well. We've seen a lot of people really step up and offer their technology at a huge discount to a lot of our restaurants.
Great. Suzanne, have you been seeing what have you been seeing on at the national level that have been creative, a little different? What have you been, let us know what you've found out.
Sure, I'm going to kind of couple on what Anna just said about third-party delivery. I participate in carryout as often as I can in Virginia, and we got an email thank you from a restaurant recently saying, hey, thanks, you ordered directly from us and you didn't use a third party. We appreciate that, and this is why. I thought that was a really nice touch because I think the consumers are starting to understand that as well. So I think that's a neat idea. Also, groceries to go, Texas, Florida, South Carolina are doing it. Other states are looking into it and getting a regulatory approval if needed. I think that's a good way to go. It encourages the restaurants to continue to stay open. There are a couple of restaurants that tried carryout for a while, weren't able to make it happen fiscally, and so now they're looking at groceries to go. So I think that concept can continue to grow. And then also websites. We had a couple vendors come to us that are doing websites that promote strictly the carryout. Some of the states have some really cool local municipalities who are listing restaurants that are carryout and delivery. But if you don't have that, you have an option of doing one of these carryout sites, and I think that's a good way to go as well.
Great. How does Colorado?
Yeah. So I guess to directly piggyback actually on what Suzanne just said, we partnered with a tourism group in Denver called Visit Denver, and then some other groups to put together a carryout site that covered the Denver metro area, so Denver and Boulder. We've been amassing sort of those sites from all regions of the state on our site, both as a resource for restaurants to input their information, and then we push that out to the public as well in terms of here's where to find who's still open. We wanted to sort of talk a little bit to the point about sort of loosening restrictions around delivery and takeout options. So back when this all started happening, our government affairs team was really good about specifically asking the state, hey, please allow to go and delivery alcohol. Please loosen this restriction on this insurance requirement on delivery drivers so that we can actually use our own people who we might otherwise be laying off to drive delivery. We were successful in getting those things accomplished, so that helped a lot as well. So we've kind of worked on it from both sides, helping our restaurants understand what they need to do in order to be able to provide takeout and delivery services and some creative takeout and delivery services. As Suzanne said, grocery as well. That is something that our state is doing, and then sort of pushing it out through that marketing webinar, like I said, to the public via our own social media feeds. And then we've worked really hard with the media to sort of also up those lists and talk about this, why people should continue to do takeout and delivery. And actually that makes me think of one more specific thing. We piggybacked from North Carolina on this, but we asked our health department, the statewide health department, to put out a flyer that sort of talks specifically to the safety of takeout and delivery. And to some extent, that flyer actually implies that it may be safer for some populations to do takeout and delivery as opposed to get groceries from the grocery store, because there are fewer points of contact with the restaurant when you do takeout or delivery. And that was incredibly helpful with the media as well, and just sort of giving them a talking point to why people should be eating out.
Yeah. One of the things that we found here in Washington, which was interesting, we didn't expect it, but it was great, was the engagement from the Visitor Trade Convention Bureaus, the VCBs. They jumped right on it, and our CEO, Anthony Anton, talked with them to get as many of them on board as possible, but they started that effort, and we just kind of helped push it along. And they actively promoted the delivery takeout option because they had an understanding that's a direct correlation with tourism in their particular areas. So, and Jillian, there was a site that was started also organically by a bunch of Seattle restaurateurs, right? That takes the DoorDash, Uber Eats element out. What do you know a little bit more about that one?
Yeah, I think the city took part in that as well, and they created their own map of restaurants that were doing takeout or delivery. As I had mentioned previously, a bunch of our members are just simply temporarily closed. They looked at the ROI and they're like, nope, just shut her down. So those who are still open, I think that was a great way to promote their business. But yeah, the VCBs and the DMOs are really stepped up. We're continuing to hear of new ones. Actually, the city of Issaquah, their VCB just got added this week. They're like, we want to take part. So there is still interest there in promoting the restaurants that are open for takeout and delivery. We also just put up on the knowledge base, the coronavirus resource guide this week, an article from our team on optimizing for takeout and delivery. So now we're at the point where the restaurateurs who've decided, yep, it's worth the ROI to stay open and do delivery and takeout, what are we learning from our early mistakes, and kind of sharing some information on that, and really hearing that our members who are doing delivery and takeout of liquor, beer, and wine, and it all has to be factory sealed, that's where the profit margin is. So we have been sharing that information with members. And then I just wanted to highlight all of the warm, fuzzy stories about our restaurants that are doing delivery to hospitals and first responders right now, completely pro bono for free. They're really the heart of, just this pandemic right now, and giving everybody hope and supporting those who are on the front lines. And I think that is a piece that should not be overlooked. So we've been sharing that information on social media as well.
The next topic is actually, I think, a growing topic, and we're fortunate that one of the states has really jumped on this. I know other states has as well, and I've seen the webinars from Texas. You guys have really been on top of this topic in terms of diversification of revenue streams for our members, grocery items. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing over there?
This is working really, really well. Apparently, we didn't even know that apparently restaurants have wanted to have this for 2 years, and we just never did it. And, within 3 days, Governor Abbott, I think it was on March 24th, signed an executive order that allowed restaurants to start start offering grocery items for sale in their restaurants, and then sort of did away with a lot of fees and forms that you would normally have to fill out for something like that. So it's going really, really well. Those restaurants that are still offering curbside are now offering bulk products, things that essentials that people need, like bread and eggs and milk and things like that, but then also some value add items, including homemade pastas or homemade sauces that you can only get at that restaurant too. And people are doing really well. I mean, we had a webinar on it last week, I guess, this week. I don't know what week it is. And they, it was wonderful. They said that what they did is they took a look, they went to H-E-B, which is our main grocery store here in Texas, and looked around on shelves to see, okay, what do people want? What are they buying most of? And also took a look at price point to see what people were offering it at. And then they went to the suppliers and said, this is what we need. And the suppliers, of course, have it. And so got it to the restaurants, and they were able to put it up on their online ordering platforms instantly. And so one of my friends who runs a restaurant here in town in Austin, she said she's never ordered this much flour. And she's sold 3 pounds of instant yeast, which is hilarious because there's no reason for people to buy that much yeast anyway. I don't think they know how to use it, which is funny. So they should also just buy bread anyway, already made. But it's going really, really well. And some people have even partnered with local farms. So they're able to do produce boxes, local produce boxes. We're trying to get closer to the local dairies so that we can get some local dairy products offered as well. Because of course we have a lot of dairies here in Texas. And it's just going really, really well. Some people are kind of mixed on if they want to keep it after this is over. But some people are definitely going to try and hold on to it because it's been a real value add for their business.
Great. Colorado, anything going on this front in Colorado?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much to add in terms of value on top of Anna's explanation. I think that was a pretty good summary of what we're seeing. We're seeing people similarly, pasta's gone in stores, they're making pasta. We saw at the beginning, we've seen people kind of use this regulation essentially in a couple of different ways. One, at the beginning, there were people who were truly simply looking to offload a lot of their product that they were going to otherwise lose. So, in addition to donating quite a lot of it to food pantries and that kind of thing, they were able to, sell it in kind of a market style. And now, obviously, we're not quite seeing so much of that anymore because we've either, people have either temporarily closed or decided to do the delivery thing. But yeah, I think the ones that we're seeing as most successful, same thing, are kind of looking at what are people looking for, what's not available. Pasta, paper goods, toilet paper. There was a restaurant for a while saying, "Come order a meal and we'll give you a roll of toilet paper with it," which was kind of a funny way to get attention on it. And all kinds of different things. And then that kind of also goes into sort of restaurants retooling a little bit for this time. So offering things like family meals and things that kind of bleed the line a little bit between grocery and restaurant. Or frozen meals even, or things that are meant to be frozen, so people can sort of grab and go that prepared food from a different source.
Okay. Suzanne, is there anything going on at the federal level that might help grease the skids a little bit for states wanting to implement this sort of thing?
Well, I think I'd like to share a couple examples that I'm hearing from the states. I mentioned Florida and South Carolina are working on this, and they didn't have to get the adjustments to their state regulations. So I think it tends to be a state regulation issue to make sure that you can work that grocery delivery in. But what I'm hearing from one of the companies we work with is Florida really has a number of those in vulnerable populations, the senior citizens, and the grocery store has a lot of touch points. To Anna's, or was that Laura who's talked about the touch points earlier? If you are having this grocery to go option and you're getting those groceries delivered each week, you don't have to go out to the grocery store and deal with that. So that's a very popular feature for some of the condos, like in Florida, where you've got seniors ensconced. And then to follow up kind of on that funny yeast story from Anna, I heard from this company that one of their vendors is seeing this extraordinary egg demand, which we've probably all heard about. But the reason for that being that people are baking because they're at home. So obviously they're baking sugar stuff, and then they're also doing their yeast breads, but you can see what's going on by the supply and demand that's out there.
Great. And this is one of the things I think we're still doing some catch up on here in Washington State, right, Jillian? We're still trying to work our way through the Department of Health and some of those issues.
Yes, we are still waiting on guidance and some confirmations. It sounds like the Department of Health is closer, but the tax issues, we need guidance still from the Department of Revenue on what kind of taxes that the restaurants should actually be charging on these items specifically. So we're kind of just waiting.
Great. Now on to relief. I know, Laura, these are some topics that you wanted to talk about. How to access relief at all levels of government, real-time updates on executive orders and legislation that affect the industry, compliance, advocacy efforts, and what we're asking for. Directory of COVID-related services for business owners. So this has been a big part over the past week and a half because of the stimulus package passage and attempted dissemination of the money. So what are some of the thoughts? I guess since this is a federal level, let's start with you, Suzanne. What have you seen in terms of how has it been going with the rollout of this program nationally?
Well, I'm seeing that some of the folks are working on the EIDL loans and making sure that's a better fit for some of the states to apply for. In terms of what's happening at the state level as well, we're seeing relief funds out there that the states are developing with their ed foundations. I think that they're still looking at some tweaks for CARES Act and looking at maybe 3.5 and 4.0 and some more relief for 501c6s there.
Okay, great. Laura.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think, this kind of goes back to what, I can't remember who was saying it near the beginning, but, when this crisis hit, we basically said, okay, our main focus from a communication standpoint, at least, is going to be the central hub of information for restaurants trying to survive this or trying to navigate this. And so we have found it to be incredibly important to not just give sort of the updates as they have. I mean, it's been incredibly important to give the updates as they happen. So when the CARES Act got passed, of course, I'm sure as all of you were, we were flooded with questions about how to access this. I mean, it literally the second it passed, and it's like, oh, it's an 880-page piece of legislation, and we don't know yet. We don't know the answer yet. The second it came out, so trying to get those answers as quickly as we can and effectively as we can. But then I think, it's been really important to us to give continuous updates on what we're doing in terms of advocacy. So every letter that we've sent to any level of government, we have pushed that out to our members and the restaurateurs so they can understand what we're looking at and what we're asking for. We've asked them to write us or weigh in on some of these town halls, what they would like to see. Is there something specific that the state can, the state, the federal government, the local government, a local government can do for you? That we got, for instance, there were a bunch of restaurateurs that asked local governments to suspend parking meter fees because then people didn't have to pay to go pick up their takeout. I mean, we were able to successfully ask for that because it was such a specific thing, and that came from our members. So I think, just keeping that open line of communication and with the goal of saying, everything that you want to know about this, you can get it from us. And if we don't know the answer, if the answer is not up on our website or in our emails or whatever, we know how to find that for you. And these are sort of the key pieces of that.
Right. Anna, Texas, how have the relief efforts been down there?
So we have made a lot of frenemies recently because our attack mode is basically do it from the relationship side, and then let's shut down the state's email server because we're going to send so many letters to the comptroller or the governor or the state legislators, whoever we can find, basically. We actually did successfully do that. We sent something like 16,000 emails directly to our comptroller whenever, like the day before sales tax payments were due, and asking for, some sort of relief there in order to provide some liquidity and cash flow for our businesses. Understanding, of course, that this is a tax and it absolutely needs to be paid, but just giving people a little more flexibility there. And so we were able to achieve that, actually. State Comptroller Glenn Hangar said, make a good faith payment, call the hotline, and you will be given like some sort of payment plan set up over the next 90 days, which has been great. So we've heard a lot of really good stories from restaurants that have been able to get that kind of relief from the comptroller. But we still have a very long list of things we need to be done on behalf of our restaurants. I mean, one thing that we continue to hammer home for these elected officials is this is not something that was foodborne. This virus did not come and make our restaurants close. We close because the government said. When the government says to do something that is essentially like, eminent domain or anything like that, they're saying we need you to do X. Well, there needs to be some sort of relief on the other side of that for our businesses. And we have no problem being that aggressive with elected officials on what our stance is and what we want to see done for our restaurants. So we have a list of things we want to see from mayors when it comes to mortgage relief, or like Laura was saying, no more paying for the meters or anything like that. We also have some phone to action campaigns set up to reach our elected officials in DC. We want them to know that we think CARES Act was a nice first try, but frankly is flawed in many, many ways, and ultimately will not help our independent restaurants the way we want it to be. We've also taken a very strong position to help reach our independents. I think that most restaurant associations, unfortunately, have a reputation of only protecting the big guys. And we know that in Texas, like at least we're 75% independents. And so we want to make sure that they are taken care of. And so we're being very, very vocal and aggressive with the media on what we want to see happen for independents, basically to try and differentiate ourselves from the National Restaurant Association, who has been a great partner, but we need to make sure that our independents are taken care of. To that end, we also launched the Texas Restaurant Relief Fund. We are the only organization right now that is providing relief directly to restaurant companies besides the James Beard Foundation, but obviously we're focused on Texas. I know there are a lot of restaurant relief funds set up to benefit the employees, some of which have had an okay launch, and some of them have been fairly disappointing, frankly. So that's one reason why we wanted to focus on restaurants, was because we knew we could handle that. Within 2 weeks, we've raised almost $2 million. It's going to go directly into the hands of restaurants. All they have to do is apply. Some qualify and some do not. But we're sending out money like almost every day right now to try and keep restaurants afloat. We've also launched a program called the Comfort Food Care Package Program with the governor and a statewide delivery company called Favor, where restaurants can create these care packages and put them up on their website for sale. And you don't buy them as a consumer. They are donated then to a family in need. So it's kind of a win-win-win for everyone. The restaurant gets money for the food, gets to stay in business to prepare the food. Favor is delivering it for free. That gives them some good press. And the consumer who is needy and hungry gets something on the end as well. So those are some of the things we've tried to do to provide relief, not only for our restaurants, but also the consumers in our state.
Yeah, in Washington State, we do a lot of the focus has been both on the restaurateurs and their employees. Jillian, you've been documenting this on a regular basis. Can you talk about some of the things we're doing at the state and local levels?
Yeah, so at the state level, the big announcement this week was the governor was going to use $5 million from his strategic reserve fund and earmark that specifically for small business grants. And honestly, it was a bit disappointing. We knew that $5 million wasn't going to go very far to begin with. And Lex, when I checked in yesterday, the counties that are kind of the first step in accepting those applications from the small businesses, counties are already saying no more applications were done. So in terms of funding at that level, that's been disappointing, but there has been some good things. I can think of at the county level, property tax deferments, which has been really helpful. The Department of Labor and Industries is deferring its premium payments for our members, which is great. They said just pick up the phone. If you know that you are not going to be able to pay your premiums to L&I, just pick up the phone, call us, let us know. We will defer for 90 days or work out a payment plan. So that's been great. And then other things just like county health departments saying that they will defer taxes and just fees for renewing your license or anything like that. So we've also had some parking costs waived, parking meters, so that customers can come and not get dinged for waiting for their pickup outside of restaurants. So I would say that there's a lot happening county by county, which we're also trying to track down, which makes it a little bit more difficult. And I would love to see some more help at the statewide level for restaurants. From all levels, it seems like you have these relief things that are happening. I mean, the federal level, you have the emergency impact fund, the $10,000 grants that supposedly came. I know for a fact that I know of at least a dozen businesses directly that made submissions back in March 31st, and they still haven't heard back, while in the bill it said it was supposed to happen in 3 days, right? We're also having issues with the PPPs because banks stopped taking applications. So what I'm finding, and it's sad, but it's an analogy I can at least understand, is once we find these relief packages, whether it's a state or local level, because the funds are so finite and it's almost always a first come first serve basis, it's like getting in line for an iPad, right? Who's ever in line first is going to get it, or whoever refreshes their browser first gets that iPhone order. I know,
that's actually not true though, Lex. We're seeing that some people that maybe have more influence with their banks, they're actually cutting the line, right? And that's that. So it's not as democratic as we want it to be either.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I mean, those people that are big, they have a lot of big restaurants. They employ a lot more people. So the argument could be made, like, well, they make the biggest difference. Maybe they should get the funds first. And yet you have these cultural touch points that are independents and smaller guys too. And it just, it's a mess, And we actually put out a survey yesterday at 10 a.m. And within 4 hours, asking people like, what's going on with the PPP? Have you been approved? Have you heard from anybody? What's the situation? In 4 hours, we had nearly 600 responses from people basically confirming what you and I are talking about, that like we're seeing this weird disparity and it has to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of 10 restaurants, because I was bird dogging this a little bit personally, and out of the 10 restaurants that made submissions for PPPs, most of them, I would say 6 of them were able to get applications in. So the bank said, we accept your application. Only one got a confirmation back saying that we forwarded your application to the SBA. Now, I told that individual, the CEO of that particular company, well, you're probably in good company there now, because if they got that far, that's more than what most people are hearing.
So true.
Yeah. So it takes us to employers and employees. This is in Washington State, because we're a state that, with Seattle, there's a lot of sensitivity towards, making sure we take care of the workforce and things like that. With Seattle and minimum wage, we're typically one of the first on that front. The focus on employees have been very important for us. Jillian, you want to talk about some of the resources and some of the information flow that we've been having in terms of helping our employees with their during this time of crisis?
Absolutely. We really see that our operators want to help their employees, especially at this time, and they absolutely want to forward along any relief sources. So locally here in Washington State, we have really 2 programs going. We've got something called Big Table, which is not a new organization, but is an organization that has just helped provide emergency relief at times like this, and not as crazy as this, but it's just if somebody in the restaurant industry is down on their luck and just needs some help. And then we also had the Schultz Family Foundation jumpstart a launch of something called the Plate Fund, and it's just for our King County employees, but they started with about $5 million of seed money to provide $500 cash payments to restaurant employees in need. So that launched, was that Monday? Yes, time is really relative right now, but that's just launched Monday, and they've gotten a lot of really great press for that, which is wonderful. And I haven't heard as much disappointment come out of that program yet, where just starting from the very beginning of the crisis, we were hearing about multiple nonprofits approaching us saying, we have this fund, and then when we would vet them, they didn't have any money to give away. So it's nice that we at least have 2 really solid local programs that do have resources to help our employees at this time.
Great. Laura, in Colorado, what are some of the things that is happening there in terms of employees and some of the employers for things like unemployment and support?
Yeah, I think our foundation has really headed up a lot of the employee side of this effort. We run something called the Angel Relief Fund that before this crisis hit was a fund for restaurant industry or hospitality workers who were encountering unusual hardship. So say they were in a car accident, or they lost their house, or they, had an illness, something like that. They could get a grant from this fund. So when this pandemic struck, the Angel Relief Fund really pivoted. It still provides grants for those situations, but we set up we started fundraising for kind of a separate fund that was strictly for hospitality workers, either diagnosed with COVID-19, under quarantine under doctor's care, or couldn't for whatever reason obtain government benefits, and had been out of work for 30 days. So we've raised, I think at this point, over $250,000 for that fund from companies and private donors, and then 100% of those funds are going to hospitality workers, and if we think we may be able to significantly seed this fund with some more money, and so that will increase. But then in addition to that fund, because obviously that's a pretty narrow set of criteria. You actually have to have the virus in order to qualify in a lot of sense. But in addition to that, the foundation put together sort of a hub of resources that covers everything from kind of governmental programs that are helping, that employees should access, the employers should give their employees that they're laying off access to. So unemployment or, how to get on the health exchange. The state of Colorado opened up the health exchange to deal with some of these layoffs and people losing their insurance, that kind of stuff. And then, other sort of types of relief that we have vetted. So we're kind of compiling that all in one place. And some of those are funds and some of it's food banks, or it's, we've seen a lot of groups take on just feeding, the hospitality workers who've been paid off so they can go to specific locations and get a meal from restaurants who, are still doing takeout and delivery and that kind of thing.
Great. Okay, Anna, what are some of the things that Texas is up to with the employee-employer side of things?
Sure. So I mentioned that we launched the Texas Restaurant Relief Fund, and that even though those funds go directly to the restaurant, they are supposed to be used for going to employees. So it's really specifically to go to pay employees for their work, which is great. We have also been, we've done some webinars around unemployment help. We focused first on owners, helping them understand unemployment, how that's working right now. And then we had so many questions from employees, even though that's not typically our audience. We decided to take their questions anyway and put together an FAQ for them too, to try and help. Obviously, we're seeing unprecedented numbers of people unemployed in the state. It's really heartbreaking. We also do support a lot of the people that give directly to restaurants. So we've sponsored Southern Smoke in the past. There's a group called Okra. There's also like every employee relief fund under everyone's website right now. So anytime any of us are ordering out, we're trying to encourage people, tip extra. And then if they have an employee relief fund, donate what you can when you can. And that seems to be helping a little bit. We are also asking the state to allow us to use SNAP benefits at restaurants. So we're working on that program right now, and it seems to be going okay. It takes forever to get anything through the federal government, and we're working with them right now to try and push that forward, because you and all of us know that people get a lot of their food from restaurants, and people that might live in a food desert when it comes to grocery stores, they do have restaurants around them, and for them to be able to use their SNAP benefits to go out to eat or to order curbside would be really, really wonderful right now. So that's one thing we're working on too.
Great. And Suzanne, what have you seen nationally, some from other states?
I'm seeing a lot of solid and consistent promotion on newsletters. I mean, everybody's upping their newsletter. People who are doing weekly are now doing it daily. A lot on social as well. And so it's highlighting some of what Anna and Laura were talking about in terms of the relief funds, creative ways that you as a restaurant worker can get support other ways. So I'm just seeing a lot of that. And I think especially more on social. I think that's probably the better use, I'm assuming that's the better use because that's what I'm seeing more promotion on. And a lot of good stuff going on out there.
Great. Just got a text in a message from Shaw from New Jersey. It sounds like some of her members have received funds from some of the relief efforts. So that's somebody's getting them. So thank you, Shaw, for that input. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so because I that's the first I've heard of somebody actually getting something. So that's good news. Hopefully more come in. I guess we've got a few minutes left. I want to give everybody an opportunity to just provide some final thoughts and where do they get more information about you and your organization, and because everybody on this call is doing incredible work. And we are, Suzanne, maybe you and I could talk about strategizing, doing more of these in the future. But let's start with CSRA. What are some of your final thoughts on how best to reach you and get your information?
Absolutely. So I hope everybody on this live call and on the tape has access to Group Site. That's our online resource center. We're pushing all sorts of coronavirus updates and information out there. We started from the beginning, so some of that, as we know, I feel like a day is a month. So some of it's dated, but there's newsletters out there from other states. If there's more that we can do to help you, please let me know. I'm here to support you guys. And what I'm seeing is people are coming to me and asking, where did you see someone do this XYZ relief fund. So if there's anything that you need, let me know, because there's probably 10 other people that would like to know as well. So that's the group site account, and I think everybody here has my email, but please contact me with questions and comments.
Great, thank you. Anna.
Sure. So you can go and look at anything we're doing is at txrestaurant.org. We also, like Laura, opened up all of our communication to non-members as well. We have a mobile app that's available. You can get that by going to txrestaurant.org/app. And that's available for anyone who wants to download it. Normally, I wouldn't leave it open to other states, but if I see it's from one of our state restaurant association partners, I'll make sure that you guys get in. One thing that I did want to acknowledge as well, I can go on like 3 different rants at any one time, but it's definitely important to lean on your media partners. I think Laura or Jillian, you guys both mentioned that. I think work with your media right now. They're being really, really helpful for us at the moment. And then it's really, really important whenever we're doing any of these virtual events, really keep in mind diversity of perspective. There's no reason to get lazy about that right now. So make sure that you're thinking about what kind of restaurant, what language do they speak, you know, who might they reach whenever you're putting these kinds of educations together.
Great, thank you. Laura.
Yeah, I really liked that last point a lot. That's great. And to that point, we're working with the Hispanic Chamber to translate a bunch of our documents into Spanish as well. So I echo that. Our information all available, corestaurant.org. There's a link right on the very first thing you see on our homepage is to our Coronavirus Resources Center, which you can opt into our email, opt into our texting. You can see all the past emails that have been sent out, and that is really the hub of kind of where we're linking all of our information to anything that I've talked about today. So that's probably the best way to sort of see what we're doing. Also agree with the media statement. I think we have. I quantified this the other day, but I think we've been quoted for something like 50 stories at this point, and we're actually essentially not taking any in-person interviews because we're totally tapped out. So that's all via email, for the most part, email communication. And then the only other thing I guess that I would say that maybe we didn't touch on so much, I think Anna mentioned this a little bit, is we surveyed our members in addition to the sort of the National Restaurant Association survey that went out, and we're planning to do it again in the next couple of days. And I think that I would encourage anybody who maybe isn't thinking about that or hasn't done that to do it, because it is incredibly illuminating in terms of what is happening across the state. I mean, I think we all know that things are dire, but it gives a good sense of, it gives a quantification of that as opposed to just sort of a general sense of malaise. And it's been helpful in terms of being able to structure our communication. We get feedback from that directly. It's opened up a lot of conversation with a lot of members.
Great, thank you. And for Washington State, it's coronavirus.wahospitality.org. And Jill, you want to talk briefly about some of the stuff that we've got up on that?
Yeah, we have pretty much A to Z, everything from federal relief, state, local relief. We've got operations. We have simply just declarations and latest updates. We've got employee support, which is a really huge category for us, keeping track of what's going on with the unemployment system and how to help our employees navigate through that. So tons of content, hundreds of pieces of content.
Great. And so with that, I wanted to thank everybody, but I wanted to kind of remind everybody, and it's dark times, or quote unquote dark times, and especially for our members, but I think that we're at the time of the year where it's spring. And as I spend a lot more time in the backyard, I see where there were old leaves, where there were old flowers, where there were old branches, there's new leaves, there's new flowers, there's new branches. With every unfortunate situation, if restaurants that close, we all know that new restaurants will pop up, hopefully leaner, smarter, better. And that will help us as associations as we grow and we help them grow. So I want us to remember that there's all these positive things and all the things that we're all blessed with. So thank you all for being part of this, and hopefully we can continue this in the future. But that's it. I'll have the replay of this, and I'll send you all the link, and we'll post this up on the Facebook group and YouTube as well. Thank you all.
Thanks, Lex. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.